Hey, Amie,
Yeah, Juan?
give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening to us on the audio version of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word about the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, please make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button, give us a thumbs up, leave us your comments. We'd love engaging with you. And most importantly, if you're following us on social media, make sure you're following us on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Bluesky at Baseball Shangri-La. Amie, ¿cómo estás?
Hey, what's up, my pulsing friend over in the corner?
So we're doing things a little differently on the show this week, ladies and gentlemen. I am on assignment. I'm remote. So through the wonders of technology, we figured out a way for me to do this show without being in studio. So for those of you watching on YouTube, you get to see a smaller, more svelte version of me. And I think having Amie be the eye candy, which is always the case on this show, is always mo better. So, yes, so I am right now calling in via phone to do the show. And I know I
First,
want to
first time
thank
caller.
first time caller, long time listener. I want to sit here and thank my cohort for dealing with the curveball that I threw her. And I know she's just full of giggles right now. But Amie, ¿cómo estás?
Hey, you know what? This is just going to be, I think, that much more entertaining of a show. We've got a lot to talk about. The only thing I'm bummed about is we got twin Chief Brodies, and now we don't get to see yours. I'm a
Oh,
little bummed about your surprise that I was giggling when I sent it to you because I packaged it to Juan John Ramirez. And
Yeah, do you want to fill in everybody onto? So, for those of you who are listening on the audio portion of the show, I got a wonderful little surprise from my partner because she knows that I love adult toys. I'm a big fan of adult toys, especially bobbleheads. She got
oh,
me a
they're his favorite.
exactly. She knows me so well. She got me a Funko of Chief Brody from the Major Motion Picture Jaws. And I didn't think about that, Amie. I was going to show mine. But can you explain to our audience why it was addressed to Juan John Ramirez when I got the package?
Partially just because I have a sense of humor. The other part is because you received a Christmas card this past winter, and it was addressed to John Ramirez. So I still lovingly refer to you as John in our inner circle sometimes, and I just didn't know they didn't have gift options, so I didn't think you would know where it came from. I was hoping if you saw something that was Jaws related that you'd figure it came from me, but I just wanted to make sure. So and it made
Wow.
me laugh, honestly.
That is a wonderful callback. I can't believe you still remember that. That I got a Christmas card from very close personal friends, and it was addressed to the family, and I was listed as John Ramirez. So
Juan, I remember everything. No, I'm just kidding.
you do. You have the memory of an elephant, unfortunately, for me. How was your weekend, Amie?
It was good. I'm sure we'll talk about bits of it later, but we have lots of baseball to catch up on. I'm sure there are going to be some people in need of some positivity today, and I brought it all.
That's right. That's right. So, before we get started, were there any comments from the comments corner that you want to address?
Um, there's a couple. My phone just decided to freeze, so lovely technology. So we got a comment from,
Technology is totally betraying us right now. So, there's either two ways of
but it's
looking
also
at this.
saving the day because you still get to call in while you're on assignment.
So it's either Stanley Kubrick was right and the machines are going to kill us all. Well, I guess it's the same thing, or it's Skynet, because in Skynet, the machine kills us all, right?
Yeah, I
So
mean, Miles Dyson did try to warn us. I say it all the time, and here we are.
that's right. Go ahead, Amy.
Oh, so we did get something from Jordy Higa, 8341. They decided to play along to our drinking game for the first time last week. And they said that it was definitely not a good episode to try. They were sloshed by 11 a.m. on a Tuesday. So, for all of you who are not familiar with how our show works, a couple of people, we all have these words that we all say. I know I'm not going to say mine. I'm sure you guys all know what mine are, but just the filler words that we use. And Juan has been called out for saying look time and again. So last week it made a resurgence. We had quite a few looks, and apparently we had quite a few listeners who might have partaken in the game. And my advice is, guys, you got to play this game with water. It's a hydration game. Do not play with anything else, or you're going to be sorry. So I just thought it was funny that they let us know. So way to contribute to delinquency, Juan.
Look. Ah! Drake, I don't do this on purpose, and my apologies to Jordy. I did not mean to, create alcohol poisoning or lead to alcohol poisoning. I really don't do this on purpose, guys. And because of this show, I was not aware of how frequently I use that word. I consciously try to be aware of it as we are recording the show, but instinct just kicks in and I say it. So, my apologies. I don't intend to kill our audience. That is the last thing I want to do. We enjoy doing the show for you guys. I mean it when I say that we love engaging with you. I know Jordy came back and he was asking about Trevor Bauer. And Jordy, I got to tell you, I think we're going to see pigs fly before we ever see Trevor Bauer back as a Dodger. I know we're going to get into it later on in the show, but Jordy, I see those same comments that you see. I hear those same comments of people. This is how desperate the Dodgers pitching situation, or maybe the Dodgers pitching situation hasn't gotten that desperate yet, that the fans are really contemplating, well, let's bring back Trevor Bauer. Why? Just because he's a warm body? If you look at his numbers in the NPB, he's not even pitching well. I would rather take my chances with the guys in the minors than to bring Trevor Bauer back.
I agree. I'm one of those fans that does not want him back under any circumstances. So that's where I stand on it. But it was definitely you are seeing that across some of the comments on social media.
And to be fair, I just want to point out, Jordy did not want Trevor Bauer back either. Jordy was just hearing the same conversations we're hearing where fans are just like, look, we desperately need pitching. What about Trevor Bauer? So,
Right. And David Wants a Taco did let us know that his life is what I experienced for that brief week in New York of having just late games on the East Coast. Like, no regard for those East Coast fans. It's brutal if there's a 7-10 game on the West Coast. Like, if you work early in the morning, you're basically screwed. So
let me tell you something, Amie. The time zone, I get what you guys are talking about. The time zone thing is real, but you know what else is real is geography. I was in Washington this past weekend. It was 9:30 at night and the sun was still out. Now, I've heard about that Alaskan, I forget what they call it when Alaska gets like the 24 hours of sunlight all the time.
Because you're
It is
farther from the equator.
it is jarring. It really threw me out of whack to be like, it's 9:30 at night. Why is the sun still out? And then the next thing I look, it's already midnight. And I'm just like, but the sun just went down, a few seconds ago.
Crazy. Yeah. So just lots of good comments this last week. Thank you guys for engaging. Like Juan said, we love seeing that. We try to jump in there as often as we can. So thanks so much for reaching out.
All right. Well, let's talk some Dodger baseball here. Let's get things started with and a pleasant good evening to you, wherever you may be. Amie, you want to give us some updates?
I would love to. My updates are all over the board. We've got player updates, we've got random awards, obviously we've got injury updates. First and foremost, I did want to mention, because this happened after we recorded last week, but Japan's Mr. Baseball, Shigeo Nagashima, he passed away last Tuesday. He was 89 years old. So just want to make sure we pay some respects to him as well. Did see stuff going around on social media, but he was a legend in the game. And kind of using that as a lead off. I'm sure you heard the unicorn Shohei Ohtani got National League Player of the Month for May. No shock there. He had a pretty stellar month, 15 home runs, 17 RBIs. He was hitting 309. So, of course, we're seeing yet another award for him. He's already well ahead of the projections. And then as part of that little back and forth between Dave Roberts and him, normally it would be, I think, Dave Roberts' turn to do a prank. I'm not really sure where they are in that prank war, but they ended up buying a tiny little motorized Porsche for Shohei's daughter. She's probably farther away from being able to drive that, but it was a cute little video that the Dodgers put up on their social media.
This Porsche thing, Amie, this Porsche thing is never going to end, is it? I mean,
No.
him and Ohtani, as long I think as Ohtani is a Dodger and Dave Roberts is the manager of the team, they're going to go back and forth with this Porsche thing. They're going to run this joke into the ground, right?
I mean, or until Dave gets his Porsche. So if he gets something more than the little car that Shohei got him, I mean, you can tell Dave Roberts leveled up. It's bigger than the one he received. So, I mean, politeness, manners would dictate, a bigger one should probably be passed back. We'll see. Maybe if they win the World Series, who knows? Let's see. We had a lot of transactions last week. So the Dodgers signed free agent right-handed pitcher Jose Urena, and we did get to see him pitch in a couple games. In doing that, they optioned Will Klein. We saw a lot of DFAs. Chucky Robinson that they just picked up. He was a catcher. He was outrighted to Oklahoma City. And then the most bizarre of them all was the right-handed pitcher Chris Stratton. He got outrighted to Oklahoma City. I believe at one point he opted for free agency, and then because he had cleared waivers, opted for free agency, they actually signed him back, and he pitched in St. Louis, only to then be sent to Oklahoma City outright again today. So he's had a little bit of a back and forth over the last week.
Yeah, that I guess there's no better example of a journeyman baseball man than what he went through in this past week.
I mean, it is the epitome of what they're going through. I think you said it last week about the Dodgers just, this is what they're having to do. They're basically playing the shell game, but with pitchers. We saw that with Landon Knack getting optioned last week on Friday to Oklahoma City. They recalled Justin Robleski. He ended up pitching for them on Friday. We also saw Ryan Lutos getting DFA'd. We did get to finally see some activations. So Kirby Yates got activated from the 15-day IL and Michael Kopech from the 60-day IL. So we got to see both of them pitch this weekend. But unfortunately, Tony Gonsolin was placed on the 15-day IL with right elbow discomfort. So right on the heels of getting a couple guys back, we're losing one of the starters. So not great news, but as we get into some of the games and the recaps, we did see Kershaw have a better game and, win his first game. So we do have some more reinforcements coming. Emmett Sheehan was sent on a rehab assignment on, I believe that was Saturday, to Oklahoma City. So hopefully we'll see some improvements there, maybe to the bullpen, maybe to the starting lineup. We'll see. As we know, when somebody's coming back from injury, it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment period. But outside of that, we did see some minor injuries. Tommy Edman had tweaked his ankle last week. He wasn't going to go on the IL. He ended up playing in Thursday's game. Hye Seong Kim fouled a ball off of himself, but he was in the lineup the next day. And then the only real pushback was that Shohei Ohtani had gotten hit by a pitch on his left foot in the 8th inning of the game yesterday. He's fine, but they are going to postpone his live BP until Tuesday. So we're just pushing it back a day. So that's pretty much all I had. Was there anything big that you maybe had and I missed?
I did have a follow-up question to you in regards to Emmett Sheehan. Have they discussed how many rehab starts they're going to give him?
Offhand, I haven't heard when I've been there. I'll hopefully be there this weekend. So if I hear anything, I will be sure to pass it on to you. But as of right now, I haven't heard anything.
I'm curious because obviously with the Tony Gonsolin news, I think they clearly are in need of another pitcher. And I honestly am very surprised that Emmett Sheehan is already even starting rehab starts. Like I was expecting we wouldn't see Emmett Sheehan until after the All-Star break, even closer to August. Now that being said, also that doesn't mean that Emmett Sheehan is recovering from an injury that he's going to start pitching and he's going to start pitching well. One of the things I
Exactly.
do, one of the things
I was gonna say, even with Tony Gonsolin going on the 15-day IL, we just sent Knack down on Friday, but with Gonsolin going down Saturday, that does, I believe, open up an opportunity to either bring him back up earlier than the 15 days you'd normally have to wait, or do you bring somebody up like Bobby Miller and, see how that goes while we're just trying to kind of fill in that role?
I see what you did there. You totally led me to where I want to go. So there are two
You're
people.
welcome.
There are two people that I want to talk about, and that's the Tony Gonsolin and Bobby Miller. First, let's start with Tony Gonsolin. To me, I'm a little concerned about this injury only because he just came back from Tommy John, and for his elbow to be barking already, hopefully it's not anything major, but that really raised my eyebrows when he went on the IL with the elbow again. That being said, Amie, I don't expect him to come back within 15 days. I really don't. I really
No.
don't. So that being said, with the problems the Dodgers have had with pitching, you mentioned Bobby Miller. At the beginning of the show, Jordy had mentioned Trevor Bauer and all that stuff. Like, this is how bad I think it's gotten for Bobby Miller. We didn't hear the clamoring of bring up Bobby Miller, bring back Bobby Miller, bring back. We literally are hearing Dodger fans say, go get Trevor Bauer before bringing up Bobby Miller. What is going on with Bobby Miller? Like, the Dodgers are in a desperate situation pitching wise. And you would think, okay, let's turn to Bobby Miller. And the Dodgers seem very reluctant to turn to Bobby Miller, which makes me think, what are they hearing from AAA? What are the coaches in AAA? What is the pitching coaches in AAA telling the Dodgers, reporting the Dodgers of what they are seeing with Bobby Miller? Are you not surprised that with the pitching needs that the Dodgers have, that we still haven't seen Bobby Miller get called up?
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, because we aren't privy to all of that stuff that's going on behind the scenes. Now, I'm looking at the schedule, and if I'm not mistaken, he is. Oh no, they're not playing tonight. They're going to be playing tomorrow. So Bobby Miller's scheduled to pitch on Tuesday for the Oklahoma City Comets. As of right now, he's got a 2-1 win-loss record. He's pitched in 10 games in the minors. So 45.2 innings pitched. He's got an ERA of 4.14. Looks like 36 strikeouts. So, I mean, I hate to say it this way. It's not horrible, especially because he is kind of coming back from an off year. I don't understand why you actually, you know what? Sorry, I saw the city that he was coming from and I was like, wait, is that in Sacramento? I got distracted. Sorry, ADHD moment, guys. I just wanted to make sure I had the right person because they were showing his middle name on there. I guess what it comes down to me is like, I say give him a chance. It can't be worse than what we're dealing with right now, which is a lack of starting pitching. I think if you are trying to also not burn out starters like Landon Knack, who are still getting used to this role, especially being moved in. He's started, but he's also done a couple relief innings. Do you want to just get a fresh arm in there? I mean, I would lobby for bringing him up, but I'm also not part of the front office.
Yeah, this is again why I have the best partner ever. She had all those Bobby Miller facts ready to go, even though I didn't even tell her. We did not even discuss, hey, let's talk about Bobby Miller on this episode. So my partner is a real pro. That's the reason why she speaks at the Hall of Fame, and my fat ass just sits in the Frito all weekend long watching movies. Thank you for that. I will say this. I will only add this. Like AAA, especially Oklahoma City, is known as a hitter's park. So I
Hmm.
know when you hear the ERA over 4, some of you probably winced and went, "Oh, Jesus, the ERA is over 4." It is a hitter's park in that area. Still, it is concerning, and I think it's not concerning, but I think it should really serve as a reminder to everybody how quickly things can turn in baseball. Amie, do you remember not so long ago how everybody was so convinced that Bobby Miller was going to be the next in the line of the great Dodger pitchers, and that the Dodgers pitching staff was going to be stacked for years because you had guys like Dustin May, you had Bobby Miller, you had Gavin Stone. We had all those. That was the Dodgers' future. Now you have to deal with injuries. You have Dustin May, who's inconsistent, and you really have just a huge question mark with Bobby Miller. I don't think even the Dodgers know what do they have with Bobby Miller. I mean, there was a point at the beginning of the season with all the pitchers the Dodgers have that I really thought that Bobby Miller was a great chip. That you use Bobby Miller to get something that you need. But right now, I don't even know what you have with Bobby Miller. I don't know what you could do with Bobby Miller. That
Oh,
being said, I think you also
oh,
need Bobby Miller.
yeah. Sorry, your connection broke up for a second there, but it
Oh,
sounded like, Bobby Miller was supposed to be a trade chip at one point, at least last year before things kind of got a little hard for him. People were speculating that that might be the route that they went. Especially because he didn't really get much playing time up in the majors, at least not what people thought. To your point of what happened the previous year, I think it is interesting if we look at the last two series. So, like between the Mets and the Cardinals, we had Dustin May, Clayton Kershaw, Tony Gonsolin, Landon Knack in the one series. Then you send down Landon Knack and you bring up Justin Robleski. So Robleski over Bobby Miller, and then you've got Yamamoto and Kershaw who finish it out. So, like, that is their starting rotation right now with the absence of now Gonsolin. So, do you call Knack up again? Do you bring up Bobby Miller to fill in some of those holes, or are we, kind of juggling that over the next week just to see how we can get through the next couple of starts? Because as you brought up last week, we can't throw off Yamamoto's rest because we saw he had a less than stellar game when he went on less than 6 days.
I think the call is Landon Knack. I think Landon Knack is definitely who you're calling back. The reason why I bring up Bobby Miller at all is at the rate that these Dodger pitchers are going down. In the back of my mind, Amie, I'm waiting for Dustin May to get hurt. I'm waiting for Kershaw to get hurt
Oh
again.
God, no, don't speak that into existence. I
Well,
did you
it's not that I'm speaking it into existence, but it's one of those reminders. Look, we just saw earlier this week Corbin Burns
I was
of the
just gonna
Serpientes.
say, poor guy. Did you see the clip of him saying he had nothing left? I don't remember the exact quote, but just seeing his face on the mound when he knew, it just God, it's heartbreaking. This sport will break your heart.
Well, not only that, so clearly this is impacting all of Major League Baseball. When they were playing the Yankees,
Oh, it looks like so a couple of challenges on Juan's end. We'll get that back in just a second. So we'll put a pin in the while we were playing the Yankees. A couple of other things while we wait for his connection. You gotta love phones and technology, right? So out of those pitchers that we saw over the last two series, a majority of them did go at least 5 or 6 innings, which is promising considering what we've seen over the span of the season so far. Kershaw in his first start against the Mets went 4.2 innings, and then Landon Knack went 3.1, but everybody else was 5 or 6 innings. Whether they had to wear it, just depending on what was going on in that game, or they were able to give it and we were able to either offensively come in and win those games, or as we saw in some of those games, the offense was a little cold, if you will. So just interesting to see how some of the games are shaping up. Juan, I want to make sure that we still have you here. I know you're out on assignment, but are you with us? All right. Well, it looks like we lost that connection.
And I'm back, Amie. Can you hear me?
I can. You're with us. I feel like I'm having my own like solo seance, even though you're not dead. Thank
Well,
God
I
you're not.
appreciate. First of all, I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate everybody else's patience. Apparently, my dumbass forgot to put my phone on do not disturb, and I got a phone call that came in as I was talking.
You're
So
so popular. Even on assignment, people cannot wait to talk to you.
no, it's telemarketers. Those are the only
Oh.
people who call me. Are everything on my phone? Anybody who calls me, it's all spam related. Even my text messages are spam. I am the loneliest man.
Oh my.
And
Well,
so,
and they interrupted you mid-thought about pitching something against the Yankees. We didn't even get to hear what you were going to say. I had to vamp about pitching. Do you
well,
remember what you were about to say?
yeah. So what I was going to say is I it. This is not a problem that's specifically. I know you and we talk about it, and we think it. It feels like it's only hitting the Dodgers. It is hitting.
I do not think it's only hitting the Dodgers. I know that it is MLB wide.
I do think it's hitting the Dodgers really, really hard.
Mhm.
But obviously, I give the example of the Yankees. I give the example of the Serpientes. But last year, when we talked about the rash of injuries that happened to to the pitchers on the Dodgers team, I think this should serve as a really good reminder that whatever this epidemic is that is affecting all of Major League Baseball right now, when it comes to injuries with Major League pitchers, I don't think it's something that is going to have a quick fix. So, if anybody was sitting here thinking, okay, that was the season that all the pitchers got injured, I don't know how long it's going to take to address whatever is causing all these injuries. And I know we've had this conversation many times on this show. Of there's multiple factors I think that
Mhm.
are contributing to these injuries to these pitchers. So that was really the only point that I was going to make is every year, like you can sit here and say, well, is it the trainer's fault? Is I know a lot of people are throwing, they're throwing the guy who runs. What is the name of? It's not pitch line. The name of the
Driveline?
drive line. And the head of it in particular, who's running all of the Dodgers minor league pitching, I know he's catching a lot of heat right now because everybody's pointing the finger at him with all these injuries and the philosophy the Dodgers have. And, Friedman said that they were going to look at the philosophy. I'm just here to remind you guys that even if they look at the philosophy, they looked at it in the offseason. Who knows how long it is going to take if they are going to change this philosophy and how long it will take to impact the players where the pitchers can stay healthy.
Well, and it's a systemic problem. So if anybody's interested, MLB put out that report. I think it was towards the end of last year. So if anybody's interested in reading it, I'm sure you can go find it on the internet. But it is a systemic problem. It's not something that's going to change overnight because until you address it, not even at the MLB level, like absolutely you need to start doing research because what can you do at this level right now to mitigate that? You've still got to start at the high school and the college level because if you are hurting these guys' arms before they even get up there, whether it's not enough innings or it's too many innings or it's, whatever we're looking at, if you don't fix it as they're coming up, that next crop of players, they're still going to have these problems in the next several years. So to your point, there's not a quick fix. We need to do something else earlier, and I think we need to keep talking about this because it isn't just a Dodgers problem. And until I don't want to say people start feeling the pain, something has to be the impetus to make the change. You can do all the reports and research that you want, but until people actively start making a change, nothing's going to happen. You're just going to keep having pitchers going down like this.
One thing I will give the Dodgers credit for is we've seen how it's already impacted the Serpientes. The Serpientes right now are under 3 games. At the time we are recording this show, they are 3 games under 500. The Dodgers have somehow managed to survive all these injuries to their starting pitching and are still in first place. They are starting a big series against the Show Pods this week. which will determine whether the Dodgers are going to be in first place by the end of the week. It's a tribute to the Dodgers that they find a way to survive these injuries, but I think you are tempting the fates. How much longer can you survive these injuries? Because to me, at this point, here's what sucks, Amie. I told you I was in the Pacific Northwest this past weekend, and I'm walking around in my Dodger hat, and of course, everyone feels the need when they see me with my Dodger hat to give me their opinions on the Dodgers whenever they see me. So there was a guy who literally didn't even introduce himself, didn't even say hi, didn't say any of that stuff, just straight up walked up to me and said, "All our pitchers are hurt, man. All our pitchers are hurt." And it's just like, thank you, sir. So the only other thing I added to it, I said to him, I was like, well, thank goodness it's June, right? We only have 4 more months left in the season. That's it. And then the team's in first place. Exactly. I channeled my inner Amie. I said to myself, not what would Jesus do? I said, what would Amie do in this situation? And that's what came out of my mouth, Amie. I said to him, I was like, well, thank goodness it's June, right? It's not like it's September and they're 15 games out of first place. They're not making the playoffs. They're still
Or they're
place.
in that final game of the World Series and you ran out of pitchers, so Walker Buehler has to come in and hopefully save it. Because we were out of pitchers at that point.
Amie, we either spend too much time talking to one another, but I literally, in your voice, it wasn't like me mimicking your voice in my head. It was literally your voice saying, Juan, come to the bright side, come to the light side, and say this. And I did. I said that.
I'm so proud of you right now. So total non sequitur, but my friend found they have some Care Bears at the, I think, Dollar Tree or Five Below, something like that. But they're playing baseball, and one is Grumpy Bear, whoever that, the bear with the rain cloud on its tummy, and then the other one is Tender Heart, and one is pitching, the other one is hitting with the bat. And so I was like, I know we don't need toys, but I might need those Care Bears just because it's the epitome of me and you in Care Bear form, minus the fact that I would totally pick Cheer Bear, but whatever. We won't split Care Bear hairs here.
Okay, Tenderheart. So now I really have to find out what is the name of the rainy bear to see, because that's going to be, I guess, my new moniker. That's what I'm going to go off of. So
but I am very proud of you because at the end of the day, even with all of these pitching woes, the Dodgers playing the pitching shell game, there's, like you said, they're still making it work. The worst case that could happen out of this weekend is, you know what? The San Diego Padres have a chip on their shoulder because we shut them out. What was it? 24 innings of shutout baseball in the playoffs. So you know that they're going to come in hungry to this series. That being said, whatever happens, happens. But again, we're just in June and reinforcements are hopefully coming, or who knows? We're just talking about Bobby Miller. Maybe he finds it and he comes up and he ends up being one of the key pieces. We have so many people who step up, and I think it's something that we forget about in baseball. This is how some people's careers are made. You get the call up in sometimes a really crappy situation, you make the best of it. And that's how, like, Andy Paw is. Like, he's having a really good year. He had a good year last year for the most part, coming up. And who would have saw that coming? Did he need to come up from the minors? Absolutely. But because this team is so stacked, sometimes those opportunities don't always present themselves. A la the case of Dalton rushing and then, releasing Chris Taylor and DFAing Austin Barnes. So who knows what kind of opportunities are going to come from some of these situations.
You bring up an excellent point about the show pods, because I agree with you. I do think the show pods are going to come into play. At the start of this series, not only are the show pods only one game behind the Dodgers, but the Gigantes are only one game behind the Dodgers.
And the Gigantes have won their last 5.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to get tough because the Gigantes, that's who is coming into Dodger Stadium this weekend. So this is a very important week coming up for the Dodgers. And the last time we saw the show pods, I know the Dodgers won the World Series, and I understand that when they beat the Metropolitans and the NLCS and they beat the Yankees in the World Series, a lot of people will just look, oh, well, the Dodgers beat the Mets in six, they beat the Yankees in five. Those series weren't as close as anybody would make them out to be. But one series that was close was that Showpod series in the first round. The Showpods were this close to eliminating the Dodgers again in the very early rounds. So that I do think these are evenly matched teams. And
Mhm.
you mentioned something that I think we saw this past week with the Metropolitan series and the series with the Cardinals. The starting pitching, especially with the Metropolitans, the starting pitching that the Metropolitans threw at the Dodgers really did a job on the Dodgers. The Dodgers ended up splitting that series. They very easily could have gotten swept in that series. There were some things that, especially some plays, that walk off that Federico had was a ball that was misplayed by Nemo. I still don't know. Yeah, I mean, turn on the circus music. Someone put Nemo in a carousel. He clearly did not know where that ball was. He did not pick up that ball. And I thought it was so.
But I think that's the beauty of baseball, right? Like you could have two evenly matched teams. You could have one that maybe is the aggressor and they're on top versus the underdog. And it just takes a couple miscues and the other team can win. But that's you meet people where they are, and they're like you said, that Mets series, like hats off to them. Those first two games, we went into extra innings both times. They were low scoring games for the most part until the end. And kudos to Michael Conforto because he got that go ahead run on Thursday and was able to kind of change the course of the ending of that game. And luckily they did get some run support to turn it around, because the beginning of that game, I was at work and I like tuned in to see the score and it was 3-0 already just in the first couple innings. And it was like, this feels very familiar. And yet they still came from behind.
But that was another game, that Thursday game where, and props to Conforto, who's been struggling all season for getting that hit to win that game. But that doesn't happen if you don't have that weird play at the plate.
The collision with Will Smith, but
Yes,
it wasn't even Will Smith's collision. It was the
no,
pitcher into the catcher.
exactly. If that play doesn't happen the way it happens, if it was a bad throw, not only was it a bad throw, and then it takes that high hop, and then the pitcher basically screens the catcher from tagging out the runner. I mean, that's why I say the Metropolitans could have very easily have swept that series. The Dodgers got help just to win two games, but I go back.
But that goes both ways though, because the Dodgers have had some plays that we wish we could take back. And it just like that's the nature of the game. And I think that's what levels the playing field. Whether you are, the Mets and the Dodgers who spent a lot of money in the offseason, or you're somebody like, some of the, I don't want to keep calling them underdogs, but some of those teams where the ownership just doesn't spend. And the Padres are actually kind of beneficiaries of that. They didn't really spend this offseason. So when you have, they're still hungry, they're still going to meet the Dodgers where they are. But like in those cases, baseball's going to level the playing field itself.
But you have to tip your hat off to the Metropolitan starting pitching, in particular, how all season long, even going back to the series in Nueva York, they have really handled Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
Shohei has not hit the Metropolitans pitching at all, and the Metropolitans have won the season series. So up until this point, the teams that are battling for the best record in the National League, the Metropolitans and the Cubs, have both won the season series against the Dodgers. And this is where everybody who is listening, everybody who is watching is going to say to me, Juan, it doesn't matter what is, because like you said, Juan, it's June. My concern is, all right, they've pitched certain players well. Have they identified certain holes, ways that they can attack Shohei? Will Shohei, if they do meet again in the playoffs, will he be able to make adjustments? I just think we should tip our hats to that Metropolitans. The Dodgers did split the series with them, and I know it's disappointing, but you split the series. You had taken 2 out of 3 from the Yankees the week before. I think heading into St. Louis, I don't want to say that you wanted to feel good about yourself because of the injuries. I think the injuries are just a black cloud over the
Mhm.
Dodgers. But going into St. Louis, the first person you see is Sonny Gray, who seems to be having a good season and pitched a hell of a game against the Dodgers.
I think both teams, we should give Flores to them both, because the Mets played really good baseball. And the Dodgers, again, it's not an excuse. They'll never use it as an excuse, but we're still we're still not really seeing a cohesive team with the way these injuries are coming about. Mookie did come back into that game. I'm trying to see Tuesday. So that was his first game back since he broke his toe. He's still playing on a fractured toe. So some of this stuff, and even going into that game, I don't know if you were, I believe you were still in town at that point, but like the rain that came out of nowhere, like we had the grounds crew rolling out the rain tarp. I was headed to the stadium that night. There's thunder and lightning strikes. It just craziness. They did end up winning that game, and even Dave Roberts was out there on sunflower seed duty. Like when Max Muncy came in, he's out there kind of throwing seeds with them too. But it's just the Mets played really well. I think in their favor, though, playing some of these teams that are leading those different areas of the National League, at least they're getting to see them sooner. So now we know, okay, they're pitching really well to Shohei. How do we counteract that? So even if the results were disappointing as far as, yeah, we would have probably wanted to take the series instead of splitting it, especially because they took the last series. Just double checking my notes here. Yeah. So we lost 2 out of the 3 when we played them at the end of May. I guess it just take what you can from it research wise, so that, okay, the next time we face them, if it isn't any other time during the season, if we see them in the postseason, how do we counteract those things? Because they had our number this time around.
Anything else you want to add about the Metropolitan Series before we talk about the Cardinals?
I did just want to call out Luis Angel, or Luis Angel Acuna. He was on the steps, I think it was Wednesday's game, in catcher's gear, even though he's not the catcher. I don't know if you saw this on the broadcast, but he had the pitcher's helmet. He was in the far side of the visitor's dugout, and he had a glove on. And at one point, one of the Mets fouled a ball over to that end of the dugout. He stuck his hand out and like palmed the ball, like just random. Pulled off his helmet, was like grinning. And while it wasn't really a play, it didn't matter. It was just like, first of all, why is he wearing catcher's gear? But also just seeing him grin and just kind of having fun with the game. To me, those are some of those moments, even if it's the opposing team. Like I love seeing that funness in the game, because sometimes we just get so focused on winning, or, trying to outsmart the other side. And it's like, these are also men playing a game. And it's nice to be reminded of that with some of the fun. So outside of that, I don't think I really had anything else to cover on that side. Anything from your side?
No, I'd like to talk about the Cardinals series.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
So,
you may.
So in this series, I think it's one of the, and I can't even be mad about it, Amie, because for me, especially those first 2 games, that Friday and Saturday game, the Dodgers got shut out on Friday. They had 10 hits. In those first 2 games, they out-hit the Cardinals, and they lost. They lost both games. So what it really came down to was runners in scoring position. Now, I'm watching both games with my in-laws, and they are going nuts because every inning, the Dodgers have runners on base, the Dodgers have runners in scoring position, and the Dodgers don't score. And I can't, like I said, I can't be mad. And the reason why I can't be mad, Amie, is which team leads the league in hitting with runners in scoring position?
The Dodgers. I just saw the
That's right.
stat.
So while I'm ready to use my card that says, man, the Dodgers are the worst with hitting with runners in scoring position, they're not. And that's again where, people say they have the angel and the devil on their shoulders, right? And they're talking to
Mm-hmm.
you. Again, I spend too much time talking to you because then your voice chimes in, and all I hear is I'm ready to go off on my rant about runners in scoring position. I hear Amie say in her voice, it's just baseball. It's just
That's
baseball.
baseball. Yeah. I'm so proud of you. Look at the growth from the beginning of the season till now. I'm so impressed.
I am a mature man. I am a mature man.
And
I,
even with that, where it feels like, especially because you could see across social media, especially that shutout on Friday, like just the collective groan from some people in the fan base. But just as a reminder, this stat was floating out there. It's only the fourth time they've been shut out this season. While you don't want to have any shutouts, it's still like it's going to happen. But we're in June, and it's only the fourth time, so it's not like even with all of these injuries, the pitching staff in the condition that they are, you might surmise that would happen more often. This is only the fourth time, so
like it wasn't all bad. It was
Tanner
nice to see.
Scott has turned his story around. He gave
Yeah.
up, let's see, in that first game against the Mets, he gave up 2 runs, 1 earned run. And then every game after that, he appeared in 3 more. He gave up no runs. So it sounds like they've isolated what they think might have been going wrong with either his delivery, where his pitches are being located. But the last 3 times he's come in, no runs, no earned runs.
You know what I think it is, Amie, and I'm gonna Roland. If you're listening, Roland, if you're listening, this is for you because I know you will back me up. If we go back to last week's episode,
I just would
what did
like
I
to
say?
say I heartily disagree with this, but
What
go
did I
ahead.
say? I said, Tanner Scott, if you listen, if you watch the show, I will fix you. What a coincidence that I say that on the last episode, and ever since I said that, Tanner Scott has been pitching well.
Juan, I don't know if you know this. I know you can't see yourself on camera, but your narcissism is showing. You might want to tuck that back in.
I'm not a narcissist. I just love myself.
Just a little bit. Just tuck it
I
in.
just love. I love myself. I like to surround myself with people who I find intellectually stimulating. That's why I talk to myself all the time.
Some of the other things from that game too. Just seeing Tanner, he's got to be breathing a sigh of relief to have 3 different games that he's been in, and just like, all right, like I would love to see. I'm hoping he's smiling when he's leaving those games. Like, thank God.
But, well, I'm glad. I hope that everything that you just said is the case. That whatever was ailing him, he's been able to fix it. I think another person that I was very encouraged by was Yamamoto's outing. I know last time on the last episode we talked about, was it maybe pitching 2 times in the week, or was it maybe that hip issue and what happened in Cleveland? So it was really nice to see him bounce back, and he pitched really well. He just didn't get any run support in that game,
which he doesn't. Like, so far, like his win-loss record does not reflect how well he's pitching. It compared to everybody on the team, just because of the lack of run support he typically gets.
Yeah, for me, honestly, Amie, I no longer pay attention to the win stat. I think when it comes to pitchers, really the only stat I look at, there's 2 stats I really look at, and that is I look at ERA and I look at innings. Like for me, I think the win stat, unfortunately, has really lost its luster. So in terms of how someone is pitching, what I look at is I look at their ERA and I look at their innings. Before, when I was younger, I would definitely look at the amount of wins, but because of what you just said, there are a lot of pitchers who don't. I remember, I think his name was Anthony Young. He was a pitcher on the Mets. And one season, he lost like 20 games. And people, of course, would look at him and be like, oh, this guy's terrible. He lost 20 games. And then someone else said, no, do you know how good you have to be to lose 20 games? Because that means you were probably keeping the team in the game. That's why you were able to get as many starts as you got in order to lose 20 games. And I don't know the math. I'm very curious to go back to that year when he did lose that many games. How much run support did he get? And that's one of those things where watching Yamamoto, I was like, man, he pitched well. but
Mhm.
you score only one run in that game, and not only one run, you scored it late in that game.
And I think that was the one that I think it was Andy Pajes hit a home run in the late innings, and it was like, oh gosh, at least we got on the board. I think in some of these cases too, it's just a reminder that these guys are more than a stat line. And some people do like have their favorite go-to stat, but for me, that's why like if we're talking stats, I usually try to go across the board because I think that paints a bigger picture than just looking at like, oh well, God, he's lost so many games. Yeah, but how many runs has he given up? Like where is he with his ear? Like there are so many other things that can give you that richer picture that give you more context. And I think that's if we are going to look at somebody based on their stats, we should look at that bigger picture in that respect. He also had 9 strikeouts in that game. And that kind of leads into Kershaw taking the mound the following day. So for the second time, that week he pitched against the Mets, then he pitched against the Cardinals. He went 5 innings in that second game, only allowed 1 run, 1 earned run, but he struck out 7. So he's like trucking on his way to that 3,000 strikeout goal. He's at 2,983. And he did say after the game that Freddie Freeman is keeping an eye on the 3,000 countdown. So like he doesn't even have to worry about it. Freddie's got it, but he did surpass Zach Greinke's record. So, just different metrics. It would be great to see him hit 3,000 before his career is over, just because we don't know when we're going to see somebody else do this again.
I give tribute to Steven Nelson, who said during the broadcast that start in St. Louis felt like the first time that we saw the real Kershaw this season. And I think what he meant by the real Kershaw is the Kershaw that we've seen in the past. And I'm not talking about prime Kershaw, but if you can get this kind of Kershaw,
Just
that
elite
will
Kershaw.
that will keep you in the game, give you 5 innings. Of course, the greedy one in me would say 6 would be awesome, but look, 5 you would take it. But Kershaw had himself a very good game. I do want to
I,
take
I
this
will
time.
I will say though, that also goes with he needed a couple of starts to get reacclimated though, as anybody coming off of surgery would. So this is indicative of what we're seeing when people are coming off of the IL. It's not news. This is not like a news flash, but it took him a couple times. Hopefully this is him like getting more in his zone.
Let me ask you this, Amie. Do you think the video that the Cardinals of St. Louis played before the game had anything to do with it? Like, there are certain athletes, and I admire them. There are certain athletes that play well when they're pissed. I think of Kobe Bryant. I think he is a guy that when he got pissed, he played really well. Now, on the other hand, there are athletes that when they are pissed don't play well, completely get thrown out of their game. So, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, apparently the St. Louis Cardinals played clips before the game, and in particular, I think it was the home run by Adams,
Yeah,
and they were
the
saying,
home run that Matt Adams did during the 2014 NLDS. So
yeah. So a lot of people are making a big deal about it. Now, Kershaw said that he thought it was Bush League. Now, here's a couple of things that I want to address. First of all, Amie,
well,
I
wait,
don't.
let's get his whole quote just to give him his due. So he said, I think it's a little bush league, but I don't expect anything else from these guys, so it's no worries. So your media response, but there you go.
So, 2 things that I want to address. One is I still don't understand the concept of Bush League. I really don't, because there's so many times that people will say, "Oh, that's Bush League," and I'm like, "What is Bush League?" So just because you don't like something, that automatically makes it Bush League? Can you explain it to me like I am a kindergartner? What does Bush League, when you hear that term, what does that mean to you?
I mean, to me, it's just like you're not. It's kind of not quality. You kind of sprung this one on me, but so I'm looking it up because like sometimes there's like I understand the meaning of it, but like to articulate it is something else, right? So everything I'm seeing here is like it's being of an inferior class. So I mean, if you're talking about like amateurish, unprofessional, that's kind of what like you're being unprofessional. It kind of falls into that maybe the unwritten rules of baseball of like maybe you shouldn't pimp a homer, like don't stop and stare at it. Like there are certain people who are going to still think that's bush league, where I don't know. I think it just depends. To your point, the context is going to depend, and then how everybody else decides to define it. But to me, I guess it's kind of it's unprofessional. It's did they need
So
to do
let's
it?
say
No,
giving out
it's not classy. Kind of like what we saw with the Padres, where they show like Kershaw crying or
yeah,
I forget what it was.
It was the crying Kershaw, and that came back to bite him in the ass.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit, buddy. But yeah, it did come back to bite them. And I think to your original question, I think Kershaw is one of those competitors. You don't really want to light a fire under him with something like that. And I think that's where, and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know that the Dodgers do stuff like this, and maybe they do, and I just don't pay attention to it on Dodger Vision. But for the most part, like the pump up videos that we see, they're about the team. And like I said, maybe I'm just oblivious or I'm, biased and I just don't recognize the other side of it. But if they're playing that clip over and over before the game, like, what do you think is going to happen? Especially with somebody like Kershaw. Like, of course he's going to make it, the media quote, but you don't think that's going to light a little bit underneath him before he takes that mound?
How can you hear me now?
Yes. Okay. Verizon man.
All right. So when you say you don't think the Dodgers operate like that, let me ask you this.
I'm not thinking of anything off the top of my head. That's why I'm putting the caveat there. They might do it, and that's where I'm saying maybe I'm biased and I don't pay attention to it. Maybe it's
Let's do a judging Amie segment here. So I present to the court this exhibit. Do you think it's Bush League to give out a replica World Series trophy on the night that you are playing the show pods?
Okay, yes. For me, because I'm not big on like smack talking and stuff like that, it was a little tongue in cheek to me where I was just like, we could have done that any night. So you've got a Blake Snell bobblehead on Monday, which Blake used to pitch for the Padres. Then you've got the World Series ring, which we know, the back and forth between those teams. You've got the gold World Series jersey. Like it's just kind of one thing after another. You're right. I don't know who picked
Your
those
Honor,
days.
you would say those are Bush League? Those things are Bush League?
I don't, because we're undecided on how we want to define Bush League. I'm hesitant to throw that word out there just because people might, that's not Bush League. That's not what it means. Fine. It definitely is trolling. So if we're gonna say that the two are synonymous, I don't know that Bush League necessarily goes under the trolling category, but it is trolling. So you're right. I guess the Dodgers do some of that stuff. And again, that's not how I like to enjoy the sport.
Well, and that's the reason why I say to you, when people use Bush League, I don't know what they're saying. I really,
I feel like Bush League should be defined to like the game itself, where like if you're doing something like this on the display, or you're because the Giants have done this to the Dodgers, the Mickey Mouse ears or whatever, when the Dodgers come up to play. I think that's more trolling than I would use the word Bush League. And maybe for some people that's synonymous. For me, now that we're kind of breaking it down, I think the two are separate for me personally.
Like, that's why I always feel like if you don't like it, it's Bush League. And that's why it's fascinating because afterwards, I don't know if you saw any of this, but people then were just like, well, why is Kershaw even getting so mad about this? Like, Kershaw shouldn't even care about this. Look, the guy was asked the question. He answered it honestly, which I appreciate. He gave his opinion. There are many times
was he mad about it though? I only saw it in text, so I didn't see the video. Did he sound like he was mad?
Here's the thing. You and I have been in that clubhouse, and we know how. I don't want to say that he is terse. I don't want to say that he is short. And maybe what I'm about to say is going too far, but I've always referred to Kershaw as a red ass. and that is if there's things, quote unquote, that he thinks they are bush league, he doesn't want to deal with it, and it's just his way of ending the conversation. I'm going to say it to you this way so you clearly know I don't want to talk about this. Move on to the next question.
Which
That's
is fair
how I.
because we have seen those situations where if the answer isn't I'm trying to think of the word that I'm looking for, but if it's not what they're looking for, they will ask. I mean, the same thing just happened to Mookie last week, where it's like, no, I just stubbed my toe. No, I haven't worn a shoe. I haven't worn a shoe. I can't pinch hit because I haven't worn a shoe. No, I'm not running because I have not put a shoe on. So maybe at that point, that's where, not that Mookie's going to say that's bush league, but at that point, it's almost like, I don't understand what you're asking me because I asked and answered. So I do get those situations for some of these guys.
I think that's a good way of putting it. I wouldn't say that Kershaw was mad, but he definitely gave the asked and answered vibes. And look, again, all we want is honesty from these guys. And I feel like Kershaw clearly gave you honesty in that answer. That's why for me, this whole Bush League conversation is it's very perplexing to me because like you and I just had this whole conversation where we don't know how to apply it, and stuff like that. So I just thought it was funny, but in truth, he looked good. Hopefully he can continue this because the Dodgers desperately need him. There was a point in time last year before he got hurt where you could clearly argue he was the Dodgers' best pitcher. So
That those 7 starts that he made, that where he will say, he still says, like, I don't feel like I earned this World Series ring. Yeah, but those 7 starts, if we don't have those in the middle of the year when we have no pitching, do we make it to the World Series? Like, that's where every little bit, every little piece that everybody contributes, it does matter. And I mean, good luck trying to convince him of that, but those 7 starts were difference makers, and that might be the case this year.
exactly. And who knows? After 7 strikeouts, he may get to that 3,000 a lot quicker than I thought. So that's very encouraging. I mean, it's quite an accomplishment. 3,000 strikeouts. I do want to ask you about this, considering that Hye Seong Kim had himself a day. Dave Roberts. Yeah,
Again.
exactly. Now, Dave Roberts was asked, and I don't know if you saw this. Did you see when they were asking him specifically about Hye Seong Kim?
Admittedly, I was kind of in and out this week just because there was a lot going on. So I didn't see all of the post games or pre games. So refresh my memory here.
So the question was basically asked, why is Hye Seong Kim not playing more? Now, we get it. He had that ankle injury, and because of that, he missed a game. And then Dave Roberts said they wanted to give him an extra day. And I think what triggered everything was then Dave said, well, then why didn't he play this day? And Dave said, that was just my decision. So I think that's what everyone set off, because if you look at Hye Seong Kim's numbers,
I have them. You need them.
go ahead, do it.
Okay, so I've got, again, back to that whole perspective. I just grabbed a whole line from him. So he is hitting 415, or I'm sorry, 414 right now, but he's been in 26 games. If you're in about the plate appearances and at bats, he's had 61 plate appearances, 58 at bats. He has scored 13 runs. He's gotten 24 hits, 9 RBIs. He's stolen 6 bases, has not been caught yet. He's walked 3 times and only 13 strikeouts. And out of all of those, he's hit 2 doubles, a triple, and 2 home runs. And that's over 26 games.
I will say this. I don't expect Hye Seong Kim to hit 400 for the whole season. He is still fairly new to this league, and I believe in the rule that the longer you play and they're able to get more tape on you, the league adjusts to you. That's when you're really going to see whether this guy is a major leaguer here to stay. So I do expect that he's going to come back down to earth. But for right now, it seems like to me, Amie, that he has earned more playing time. And I get it. Maybe the reason why he is hitting 414 is because the Dodgers are putting him in positions where he can succeed when he's only facing right-handed pitching. He doesn't play when left-handers are pitching. And I constantly hear Dodger fans, and it surprises me because these are fans who I know watch every game, so I don't understand why they are always saying, why is Conforto in the lineup? Why is Conforto in the lineup? And they're not paying attention to the fact that, first of all, they don't have many more options out there, and Conforto is a left-handed bat. And the Dodgers subscribe to that righty-lefty matchup. They love it. But being that Hye Seong Kim is left-handed, and we are now getting close to the middle of June, I think the Dodgers have to seriously consider, with the lack of production that they are getting from Conforto, that perhaps maybe a better option would be to have Hye Seong Kim in the lineup more, move Tommy Edman to center field, move Teoscar Hernandez to left field, and Andy Bacchus to right field.
That's what I said a couple weeks ago.
I think we're getting to that point, Amie, that this is the point where you need to find how can you address the holes that you have. The trade deadline will be next month. So I think you have to figure out, do you have in-house solutions? And that to me seems like a no-brainer. Am I off there?
No, I mean, and this is where I think the front office is going to do whatever they want. We've heard Dave Roberts say in the past in some of those media scrums that they were going to give Conforto about 150 at bats, plate appearances, whichever way they were counting. And he's at 182 at bats at this point. So you know that those conversations are probably happening. It's not like they're not unaware. But if he is starting to hit again, that also factors into, okay, do we now give him a little bit more time to see if this works? Because if we do have another lefty in the lineup, that is a benefit to the Dodgers before they start trying to look at other alternatives. And we have seen Kike playing around the field. You can swap in Edman or Kim in the outfield or the infield. So they have options to move things around. I think Conforto, with some of his recent production, in my opinion, he might have earned them giving him, a little bit more leeway. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know what the outcome will be, but this is kind of that rubber meets the road moment where they're going to be thinking about this, or they probably already are. Let's be honest.
I will say this: I'm still not comfortable with Hye Seong Kim in the outfield.
Me either. He's better in the infield.
Yeah, and that's why I say move Tommy Edman into the outfield.
And Tommy Edman is stellar in the outfield, but if he's still having lingering ankle issues, we have to be aware of how much running he's doing out there. So that's also going to factor in until he's kind of at 100%, where that's not a lingering issue. I think that also plays a role in, do we trot Kim out there to get him more reps, because we may need him out there at one point, and we don't want to start that experiment later in the season, or, hey, we can't afford to have any mistakes in the outfield right now while we're kind of on, shaky ground offensive wise. We can't be giving up runs on the defensive side. So they definitely have a lot to think about.
I think that's fair. I think what you added about Tommy Edman, I definitely think that's fair. It's something to keep an eye on to see, because I do feel if you can make those moves, and who knows what the Dodgers are thinking, but whatever trade chips the Dodgers have, in my opinion, I think they're going to have to use them for pitching. So if someone's out there thinking, well, they need to trade to get an outfielder, maybe they don't. If Hye Seong Kim is a left-handed bat, you put that left-handed bat. But again, I get the Dodgers' philosophy. If there's a right-hander, they want to load up all the lefties in that lineup. If there's a lefty, they want to load up all the righties. I'm curious to see what they end up doing.
And this is where I think, again, it's the spoil of riches, where the Dodgers do have a lot of offense when they are firing on all cylinders. And I know, much to everybody's chagrin, like, well, have you seen the last week's games? Yes, I have. But this is still a pretty stellar offense when they can get everything going. I would say it is one of the better ones in the league. The fact that they aren't firing on all cylinders to me just means when they do, the fact that they're already leading the league, when they finally click and find it, like how much better is that going to be? Whether Conforto's in the lineup or not, depending on where you slot in Kim, I think that they still have a lot more. They have a lot more progress that they can make in that respect, and I think it's only going to get better if they can find that. And I don't have any doubt that they will.
Anything else that you want to discuss about the Cardinals series?
The only other thing, so just so we're being fair on kind of watching like what everybody's doing, Nolan Arenado hit his 100th career RBI against the Dodgers, and that was that walk-off win. So like of all the times to like hit a milestone stat, and it's like, oh, really? You did it you did it on a walk-off against us? But I mean, that's like perfect baseball right there. Like of course he did. Of course he got his 100th career RBI against the Dodgers by hitting a walk-off against them. So
Nolan Arenado has had a pretty successful career against the Dodgers. So
is that payback for not being on the team, or
she's clearly not that into you, bro. She's clearly not that into you.
No, I think that's everything that I had. Just enjoying some of these games. I know that they weren't the wins that we were going for, but there were still some pretty cool plays. Just seeing some of the team come around and just seeing them doing their best out there.
All right. I want to move on to this next topic. And again, I am so proud of my partner. So she not only spoke at the Hall of Fame, and she deserves all the love for that, but this past weekend, you participated in a talk on SABR. As part of SABR, do you want to fill us in on that one, Amie?
Sure, yeah. So the SABR, for all of you who aren't familiar with the Society for American Baseball Research, I know we've talked about it, we touch on it every so often. You don't have to do research, you don't have to be a researcher or anything like that. If you want to get into stats, or you're just a fan who wants to find other people who are like-minded in that space, SABR is a wonderful place for that. They have all kinds of committees. If you love baseball cards, the Negro Leagues, if you're interested in umpires, or in my case, the Women in Baseball Committee, that's the one that I happen to be the newsletter editor for. And I was invited because the Women in Baseball Committee are doing a monthly series called, oh gosh, I was just on it and I don't, Diamond Stories. Sorry, it's been a long weekend. So those are going to be the first Saturday of every month. If you are on the West Coast, this is where we're going to get punished for once. So it is at 7 a.m., 10 a.m. Eastern time. But it's just an hour-long chat. They've got a lot of people lined up for the rest of the year, but I just basically got to speak about my experience in baseball, speaking to representation and visibility. So things that I'm very passionate about, kind of my path into baseball, what we do, whether it's on the podcast, how we prepare for that. So I got to kind of share my process with what Juan and I do, but also on reporting and covering the team. So really just getting to speak to other people and speak from my perspective. And we had somebody share one of the comments on there. They were there to see it, and they actually, because of our show, realized that it was possible for them to be able to do some of these things, again because of visibility. So they're on a podcast, and it's just amazing that we have stood on so many women's shoulders before us. Melissa Ludke, just the people that are in this sport, showing that we deserve a place in it. And then we're moving it forward and we're influencing people in this timeline right now, but also like into the future. So just getting to talk about that. And they have a bunch of other talks that are set up. So for July, Dr. Leslie Heafy is going to be talking about like discussing research and how to go about that. So if there is anybody who I didn't go to school for that, I know how to research, stuff that we learned like college, high school, whatever, but being able to, if you do want to contribute in those ways, here's some pointers on how to go about that. For August, we're going to have Gabrielle Augustine from the Baseball Hall of Fame speak. In September, Cecilia Tan, she is the SABR publications director. She's going to talk. And in October, we'll have Dr. Kat D. Williams. She's the CEO of the International Women's Baseball Center. She'll be speaking most likely on her new book about Maybelle Blair, the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League player. who's also done amazing things for women in the sport, even though she only played a year in the AAGPBL. So just it's a very informal group, getting to hear other people's stories. So if anybody wants to go, you don't have to be a member of SABR. You can come, just register for the Zoom call and join us. Come ask some questions, come learn something new. So sorry, that was my long-winded SABR talk track, but it was an honor to be able to speak at that function, and just to be part of a group of people that is trying to further the sport and further conversations about baseball.
You're a star, partner. You're a star, and you deserve all the love that you're getting, and so much more. So again, I am so proud of you for doing what you do.
Thank you. Just trying to get the word out there. Women have always been a part of baseball. We just, we just want a safe space to land. Whether it's people who just follow the game, or they nerd out like me, and I take my scorebook and my transistor radio to the stadium or at home. Like, I got a shout out from Tim Neverett this week. They just, let the gals play. Let the gals come be part of the game.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Amie has become Tim Neverett's scorebook groupie. So
I'm not a groupie. I just keep score, and he asks people where they're watching the game from.
Have you been promoted to a scorebook girlfriend? Is that how it works?
Oh my gosh, highly inappropriate. Absolutely not. He, much like other baseball aficionados, can appreciate a scorebooker.
And it definitely goes together with a radio broadcast. I will say that. I think keeping score and a radio broadcast are perfectly matched.
Well, and I will say this, and it's not about me. If I post a picture from the stadium, or if I post a picture at home with my scorecard, there are inevitably people who respond back of like, oh my gosh, scorecards are cool. It's a lost art. And it's like, yes, it is. Let's get more people keeping score. If you don't know how to do it, let's talk about it. Like, if you think this would be fun, let's have those conversations. Let's have more people scoring. Because for me, that's how I keep my head into the game, so that I'm not looking all over the place, people watching, because my ADHD will just like take off. So if it's something that resonates with people, I love that there's a reminder out there still talking about it.
Anything else before we wrap things up?
No, I think I am all baseballed out, and we are 20 minutes into the series against the Padres. So I'm excited to see how that game is going.
So before we sign off, I do, point of privilege, Amie. I see your shirt and it says Los Angeles is love. And for you Angelinos, this past weekend has been very tough in the city. So I think it's very appropriate that you wear that shirt, Los Angeles is love. Quick shout out to the fans at the LAFC game on Sunday for doing what they did and taking a stand and supporting the city in this time of need. And so if those of you don't know what I'm referring to, go online. But
I was just going to say, go to social media, because you've been living under a rock.
Yeah, so I just want to just put out there, as someone had said, you have a voice, use it, Juan. And so for you, those of you who are struggling, you are in our thoughts, you are in our minds. I know there's a lot of people who are scared on what's going out there. And it's not just on immigration. This is Pride Month. So this is going out to everyone. If you are scared, please just know that this is a show that, as negative as I am the raindrop Care Bear, who I'm going to find out what the real name is. This is a safe space. This is a show where we try to recognize those who are invisible. So I just want to point out,
it's just very, very human-based show. Like, be good humans. I read something this weekend, and it's because not everybody can be out supporting. And it said, resistance is not a one-lane highway. Maybe your lane is protesting. Maybe your lane is organizing. Maybe your lane is counseling. Maybe your lane is art activism. Maybe your lane is surviving the day. Do not feel guilty for not occupying every lane. We need them all. Basically, take care of yourselves and find your community.
Yeah, I saw that one too. I think that's beautifully said, and let's leave it at that. Amie, any last words?
Be good humans.
Very good. So that's going to do it for this episode. For those of you that have been listening on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you. And more importantly, if you're following us on social media, make sure you're following us on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Bluesky at Baseball Shangri-La. She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Amie, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.